you so much for joining us today on Behind the Gun with Jason. I'm thrilled, honored, and excited to bring in Leah Ashley. And this is the first we've done back-to-back. I was on Leah's Thrifting Thursday yesterday, and she's on my show today. So Leah, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I am so excited to be here on Behind the Gun.
I am so excited that you're here. Real quick for all those people watching, Leah Ashley founded Living with Leah, but she started out years ago with Fab Life on YouTube and garnered like 250,000 followers, I think, at some point, which led to her becoming a TV star on a show called Fab Life that she co-hosted with Chrissy Teigen, Joe Zim, and Tyra Banks. And I got to tell you, when I read that, I was like, Tyra Banks, fool, because I could not get a little penny out of my head because I'm that generation. She's been on or featured on Pickler and Ben, the Style Channel, CNN, ABC, CBS, HGTV, KTLA, Discovery Network, Hollywood Today Live, Glamour Magazine. She writes for Tribeza Magazine and is host and producer of Vintage Style Modern Life on the Design Network. You can find her now on Living with Leah website. She also spends a ton of time on Instagram, which is where I found her, or she found me. I don't know. I think you found me through Gwen. And she has an incredible following there. She writes a blog. The Vintage Style Modern Life on the Design Network is a show she does on her own. She's just doing a ton of stuff. So Leah, thanks for joining us, and tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got into this industry, and what you're doing right now.
Well, I'm exhausted after listening to that intro of all the things that I do. That even makes me tired. Oh man, yeah, it's been an interesting career path for sure. That is for sure. But yes, I got my start on YouTube, which led me to television, which I absolutely loved and adored. And from television, sort of back into social media. And honestly, that is the most fun because you can connect with people right away. There's only so much you can do through a TV screen because, people will I guess they could write you like a fan mail. Like I used to get fan mail in the mail, but now I can get to talk to people immediately on the DMs. Everyone just slides up in my DM.
Which is what I did. It's how we started talking a couple of months ago now.
Yes, you slid up in my DMs, or I slid up in yours. You're right. I don't remember who initiated, but Jason and I have become quite the Instagram friends.
Absolutely, yeah. I think you follow me because of Gwen.
Yes.
And then I was like, who is this woman? Because I took out a lot of people who followed me because, at 2 o'clock in the morning, what else are you going to do?
What else?
And you post some really cool stuff. And your Instagram TV shows are really fun with the guests. The ones you've done on your own and then with the guests have been a lot of fun to watch. So I'm curious, and I've heard that you started doing the DIY stuff because you were a broke college girl and you want to have cool stuff. What led you to YouTube? How did you take that idea of doing the DIY and having cool stuff and thrifting to YouTube, and how did that explode?
So this was way back when YouTube first started, and I had a business partner at the time, which was my best friend, and we started this channel together, and originally it was called Fabulous on a Budget, and this was back in like 2007, so a long time ago. And it was based out of need. We didn't have any money, but we still wanted to look good, live a fabulous life, have a fabulous home. And so we shared our tips and tricks on how to achieve that on the internet. And we did it. We had a blog, but we sort of realized quickly that our strong suit wasn't really blogging. It was more being funny in front of the camera. And so we started YouTube. So YouTube seemed like the right platform for us, again, because it was a really great way to really connect with our viewers, our audience. And we started sharing our tips. And it sort of snowballed because we started doing our DIYs with other YouTubers, and we started making over their rooms or their spaces or their homes. And that's really how we grew our channel. Was we would do like a home makeover or office makeover, whatever they needed. And then on their channel, they would promote it and sort of do a big reveal. So that's how we grew. Yeah. By the time I left the channel to go to TV, we were, I don't know, at 250,000 subscribers or something like that. So it was really, really fun. Really fun.
That is really fun. Really cool. And it's like, it's nothing's impossible. It's a lot harder to get 250,000 followers now than it was then. Although then it was much more challenging because you didn't have nearly the social media tools to promote either, right?
Yeah,
So
and we were sort of like, we had all these ideas about like partnerships with big companies. Like, okay, if we could just get sponsored by Lowe's and they could help us, like whatever. And those first few room makeovers, we invested our own money into transforming these spaces because we had to buy new stuff. And there wasn't really partnerships and brand deals like there were. And we kept being like, this is where it's going. This is where it's going to be. And the brands like just weren't there yet. Like they didn't totally get it. So we were sort of ahead of our time in thinking about like collaborations and stuff like that. And really when you're trying to grow a YouTube channel, a social media channel, whatever, just increase your viewership and engagement online, collaboration really is the key, especially right now. Yes, it's maybe a little bit harder than it was back then. But the reason I do Thrifty Thursday Live, which is where I get to bring on like-minded people who love antiques, vintage, and thrift store shopping as much as I do, maybe more sometimes, is to expand my own audience. They promote it on their site, I promote it on mine, they get some audience and new engagement from me and vice versa.
Absolutely. And yeah, like I said, you have a great time with it. You're such a great sense of humor and joyful demeanor on your shows. I was thrilled to be a guest yesterday. I just have to ask, you did I watched a video of like behind the scenes of your show that you were on.
Yes.
And William Shatner was the guest that day.
Yes.
Who was your most interesting or memorable or holy cow kind of guest?
I feel like every day it was a holy cow kind of a thing. Like you have to remember, like I'd never been on television before and I was coming from the YouTube world. So it was like, wait, like I remember telling the executives and Tyra saying like, Tyra, like, you know, I've never done television before. Like I just sort of kept waiting for the phone call for them to be like, oh, never mind. Like we messed it up. Like we didn't need to cast you. You know what I mean? Like we need someone with more experience. So I still don't know how they let me on that show, but because of that, we got to interact with so many great people, and I DIY'd sunglasses with Kris Jenner. I am a big Bravo celebrity person. Like I love all the like trashy reality stars. So we got to have a whole bunch of people from Vanderpump Rules on, which is like my jam. William Shatner is hysterical. I have a video of him. I got it. My dad loves him. And so I had him wish him happy birthday. And so every year I send my dad, William Shatner, telling him happy birthday.
Oh, that's awesome. That is awesome.
Yeah,
my dad would lose his mind if that happened for Dad because he was a big Star Trek fan back in the day.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that was really cool. Folks who are watching have questions for Leah or myself, please post them below. We'll answer them as soon as we can on the show today. So you went to this, did you go to college for production or anything? Because you do an amazing job with the production work that you do in the design work.
Oh my God, you're way too nice to me, Jason. I know I didn't actually, I ran super random. I have a degree in fashion design.
That's not super random to end up in entertainment. That's kind of,
I guess
that
not.
makes a lot of sense.
If I had to do it over again, I would have gone back for interior design because really, honestly, that is where my passion lies. And that's where I've taken sort of my design degree and sort of morphed it into that. So I have a background in production from all of the years spent doing YouTube. Everyone was like, whoa, you've never been on TV before. You're this overnight success. I'm like, no, I am not. I have been in the trenches on YouTube producing my own content for 10 years. So I definitely think like a producer. I think, okay, how can I tell the best story? You know, what needs to happen next to make this funny, to make people want to keep watching? I sort of developed this term called infotainment. So I love to create content that is informative, but also entertaining. Like nobody wants to be bored out of their mind. I only have you for about 3 minutes probably for attention span. And I know that. So I have to, you know, cram it in and make it as entertaining as possible.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So speaking of all the work and the attention span and things like that, all these things we talked about you doing that you do regularly. One of the reasons you've moved from Florida or California to Texas is because your kids, Ford and now Ford in Indiana.
Yeah.
How do you find the time? I mean, the time management skills you must employ are insane. You do so much and you're always on Instagram. Like you said, now it seems like a lot, but you can be in and off for like a couple of minutes, but you're doing a lot of things with all the production you're doing, the blog, the websites. How do you keep that all straight? How do you keep up with all that?
So it's a good question. And if anybody has the answer to time management with small children and how to have a career, let me know. Like you said, we chatted a little bit earlier before we went live today, and Instagram, you look like you're a lot busier than you are, I think. So perception, it's not real life really, right? So
Yeah.
before, honestly, and I've always been really honest about this, I've always had help. So I either had a nanny or my son was in daycare, and then COVID hit and everything halted. So the production of the shows that I was doing for the Design Network came to a total halt. My Thrifty Thursday, where I would go thrifting and take you along with me, came to a total halt. And so I had to really sit back and figure out, how can I sort of change and and adapt to this new world that we're living in. Like, I still want to produce great content for my viewers and my followers because it's something that I'm very passionate about. I love helping people love where they live and doing it inexpensively. And my passion really is to do that with vintage, pre-loved pieces, thrift store shopping, estate sales, garage sales, online auctions, all those things. So how do I continue to make that content in a time when A, I have no help, childcare wise, and B, can't go anywhere. So that's when I came up with Thrifty Thursday Live, and I was like, you know what? We're just going to go live with people who feel the same way and who are vintage influencers, and we're going to look at kind of like Cribs. Do you remember that show Cribs on MTV? So it's kind of like that. So like these girls, these guys that love thrifting and vintage take me and all my viewers into their homes, and we talk about their tips on how to find all the good stuff, and their favorite pieces of treasure that they found. So it's been really great. And as far as time management goes, I sort of just know, like, okay, I need to get X, Y, and Z done this week. And my husband luckily works from home as well. So between him and I, we sort of can figure it out. And then my mom is living with us now because of COVID. She lost her job. She was selling high-end real estate in Mexico. And so like no one's buying high-end real estate in Mexico right now. No. So she's living with us, which has been a huge blessing because it's also a big help. So my son is going back to school in October. And so I'm hoping to sort of be able to get back out there. But the truth is I've had to make a lot of sacrifices on things and projects that I really want to do and I'm really passionate about. And I just don't have the time to do it. And it's frustrating because I'm like a hustle person, like go. And sometimes I just have to go, you know what? I'm not getting out of sweatpants today and I'm going to have applesauce all over me. And that's fine.
That's life. When my oldest was young, I was a stay at home and I drug him to estate sales and thrift stores all day. And there was, thank God I wasn't trying to YouTube at the time because I don't know when I'd have gotten that done. Yeah. But speaking of your son Ford and buying things on the cheap, you pulled off one of the most gangster moves I've ever seen at Round Top a couple years ago. Yeah. That cool cool Ford sign. Yeah. I'm going to tell you, I used to do a lot of antique shows. I came to this through buying and selling, and I had a shop. I did antique shows. I've set up at Round Top. If somebody had done to me what you did, you'd have gotten the best deal ever too. So why don't you tell people about that? It was a good idea.
I know it was a pretty good idea. So for the people at home who have not heard this story, my son's name is Ford. I found this incredible oversized vintage Ford sign from, I think it was from like the 50s, because it was before they adopted that scripty logo. So it's very big and bold and graphic. You can see it on my Instagram at Living with Leah. And it was these old guys that were selling the sign. And they were like sitting there drinking beer all day in their booth. And I went up to them and I gave them the sob story. Oh, my son's name is Ford. This would be amazing. I tried all that. This would be amazing in his room. They didn't really care. They were like, this is the price. We'll maybe do a little bit better for you, but not really. Dang. So I had to get creative. So my girlfriend and I were like, how are we going to like charm the pants off these guys? Like I got to get this sign, but I'm not paying what they wanted for it. It was expensive. So I noticed they were drinking Henry's hard cider or hard, it was like hard soda. That's what it was. Orange Henry's hard soda. I was like, you know what? I'm going to come back with a 6-pack of Henry's hard soda and just see if I can get them to like budge at all. And you know what? That $8.99 pack of Henry's hard soda saved me $200 on the price of that sign.
That was when I saw the video and you walked up there and you and your girlfriends are just giggling like schoolgirls thinking about it. And then afterwards you're like, we saved $200.
Yeah. And they laughed. They were like, all right, you got us. That was good. That was a good tactic. That's right.
Which is a great tip for anybody watching, right? If you go to estate sale.
That's the tip. Bring booze.
Yeah, estate sales are the same thing. Antique shows. Get to know the people selling and be nice to them. And all of a sudden the deals become better. And you're not getting it at a thrift store price, but you're getting a really great thing at a much better price, which we all love a deal. So I just thought I had to bring that up because I thought, man, that is so brilliant.
I love that you called it gangster. Thank you.
Oh, that's an OG move right there. So you have these boys. They're what, 2 and 4 now?
They are 1 and almost 5.
Oh, so I kind of surrounded them there, but they're little itty bitties.
They're bitty.
What suggestions do you have for designing and decorating with kids in mind? Because that's an area that the design magazines don't touch or talk about. I don't think there's really any books out there. There's no thought process other than getting through it. But I think a lot of us want to live through it with style and expose our kids to at least well thought out, homes, places, right? So what kind of tips do you have for people when they're designing and decorating with young kids at home or in mind?
Well, so this is why I love vintage so much. I tend to use pieces in my home that have a lot of patina, like you can see behind me this way, there we go. The jugs in the back, they're beat up, they're weathered, they're worn. So I love using vintage for that reason, so that if my son scratches something, doesn't matter, it looks cooler. So we have a lot of like leather sofas in the house, which I think just look better as they age, and things like that. I know it is tough to decorate with children because I think a lot of people just go, forget it. It's going to get destroyed anyways. I'm not going to spend any money here, or I'm just going to go to IKEA and get everything really inexpensive. But I got news for you. The stuff that you buy at IKEA is going to fall apart in 2 seconds. Sorry, IKEA, if you love it, sorry. I love buying pieces, that are substantial, that have already, weathered the test of time. These dressers that have been around 100 years, they're going to last you another 100 years. And I think that's something to really think about, because you're going to be replacing poorly made furniture with kids constantly. Like, it's just constant.
Yeah, and I think people confuse cheap and thrifty.
They do. They absolutely do. So when I'm, out hunting, which I know you feel the same way, you're looking for quality pieces. You're not just like, oh, this is $4.99, so I'm going to buy it. Like, you want stuff that is timeless, that has weathered the test of time, that is an heirloom, that can be passed down. One of the examples I love to use about when talking about this is that for a changing table for both of my children, I bought a small mid-century modern little cabinet. It's got 4 little drawers on one side and just a little cabinet on the other. And I put their diapers in there and their little clothes in there. And on the top, I put a little changing mat. Done. That's the changing table. That changing table is going to morph into, first of all, it's been through both my children. And it's going to morph into their, armoire or whatever when they're a little bit older. And heck, they could take that thing to college with them and it'd be like a super chic piece. Right,
absolutely. I love watching all the thrifters out there, but I cringe every day when somebody, the $4.99, it was blue and white, it was brass, but it's not good brass. It's not blue. They're buying it because they think it's cheap, and being thrifty is about knowing what is a good deal.
And that is our job, Jason, is to educate the world on what is good and worth the deal. Where's the deal?
So what are some things that you look for? It's something that you collect. What is something? How can you look at something across the room and say, that's a deal, that's a good looking thing?
It's so funny. It's a good question. For me, it's like an emotional thing. So something just speaks to me. So one of the collections I've started is bluebonnet paintings, vintage bluebonnet paintings.
Sure.
But they have to be very specific. Like, it can't just be a bluebonnets. It has to have a certain color story in it. Like the The paintings have to be sort of weathered and yellowed, which is actually a sign that the paintings are dirty. That's not what they looked like when they were first done, but that's what I love. So it's really just about finding, and to be honest with you, yes, is it amazing when you can find a piece at a thrift store that was $5.99 and you can turn around and sell it for $500 like we talked about yesterday on Thrifty Thursday? Yeah, that's awesome. But I really think that you should, at least to get your feet wet with thrifting, start with what you love. Start with what speaks to you. Like, that's what's so great about design, is it's subjective. What I love and think is cool, you might think is like the most tacky thing ever. That's okay. If you love it and you can find a place for it in your home, and every time you walk by it on your bookshelf or in your kitchen, it makes you smile, buy it.
Absolutely. And the wonderful thing about all of this, especially if you're buying on the cheap, on the thrift, is that you don't have a ton invested in it.
Correct.
You can change it the next time. When you see that next thing that you like better, you can change it tomorrow.
Absolutely. And the more you go and the more you sort of jump into this, you'll get better at it. Your eye will become more decisive and more perfected. It just takes time. It takes practice like anything else. And I think another really big tip is to go often. Like, you pretty much have to go every day to get all the good stuff. And, and some days you have to understand too, like, it's going to be a miss. There's some days like are a total score, and then there's some days where there's nothing.
Yeah. And don't settle. Don't settle, I think, is another word. And don't overlook damage.
Oh, that's a good tip. Don't overlook damage. If it's going to cost you more in your time, money, and energy to get it fixed, then it's not worth it.
Absolutely.
I'm not one of those people that buys things to bring home and like refurbish. I'm really not. Like, it's gotta be pretty much ready to go when I get it. Absolutely. Time.
Yeah, because part of thrifting is maximizing all of your time.
Yeah.
And your and everything else. Hi, Mercedes is watching us from California.
Oh, hey, I hope you're okay in California.
Yeah, she watched last week. How are things going there, Mercedes? But yeah, it's thrifting is no good if you're buying things that need a lot of work and attention afterwards. It defeats the purpose of it all.
Correct.
So, what's on the docket for you coming up? I know you got some big things you're working on. You may not want to talk about those. What's coming up? What are you excited about? And what do you see happening in the design world?
Wow, those are two very different questions. What do I have going on today? Just every day is just keeping kids alive. That's my number one priority.
Keeping kids alive.
Alive and entertained. Alive for sure. If I can keep them entertained, that's a bonus. So that's on priority number one. After that, I've got a couple of projects that I'm working on that I can't really talk about yet. But I'm very excited to finally get to announce them when I can. They are design related, they are thrifting related, garage sale related, all the things. So that's going to be really exciting, and hopefully I'll be able to talk about them soon. But honestly, I'm just having so much fun on Instagram. That's really where I spend most of my time, guys, these days. I don't really do YouTube anymore because I'm like, why do YouTube when I can just do it all on Instagram? I'm like a lazy social media influencer. If I have to leave one platform to go to another, I'm over it. So I love bringing Thrifty Thursday to you guys. It's so much fun to do the thrift store shopping, and then also to be able to connect with other like-minded design people who love vintage.
Yeah, it's and for those of you who are curious about what Leah's talking about, if you follow her on Instagram, I'm sure she will announce it there as soon as she can.
I'll give you all the details as soon as I can announce it. There's a few things in the works, but it's like, you don't want to jinx it. You know what I mean?
I understand completely. I never post pictures of estates I looked at until I have the contract signed.
Smart.
Because I've had estates disappear after I thought I had them.
Yeah.
Pictures online like, oh no, that didn't happen. Don't know what you saw then. So we're gonna wrap up in just a couple minutes. I always like to give my guests a final. Oh, real quick, Mercedes asked, do you have a vintage store?
So I do have a small online store called Fin Trading Co. And I just share some of my picked pieces there. It's a little low in inventory now because, again, COVID, I haven't been able to get out there. I don't really feel comfortable taking my kids with me to the thrift store right now, obviously, during all this. So no childcare, COVID, it's not a ton of stuff there. But you can check it out. Follow me because things are going to start slowly being repopulated in there. And there is some fun stuff.
Yeah, so Mercedes, Living with Leah on Instagram is the place to find
Living
her.
with Leah. Please follow me there. We have so much fun. We really, really do.
She really does. And if you go there, you'll see her and I did a show on her channel yesterday.
Yes, and it is saved on my IGTV, so it's all there.
Which is really fun. And this will be put on my IGTV in the next few days as well. So you can see her twice as often in the same places, basically. Oh, excellent. So I always like to end my show with giving my guests an opportunity to talk about anything and everything they want to. I don't tell you about this beforehand because I want to hear what you're passionate about. So in regards to living with Leah, with you, your kids, your family, anything you want to talk about, Leah, the floor is yours for the next couple of minutes.
Oh my God. I mean, first of all, that is a lot of pressure to just throw on someone, like, pick a topic out of anything. No, I mean, I think, you had asked me where I think design is going. And design is so funny, right? Because it's always like, what's the trends for 2020? What's the trend for 2021? And I think that we are seeing some real shifts right now in the design industry because obviously, like, the whole world is shifting, right? How we do everything is completely changed. And it is so funny because it feels like vintage antiques are having sort of this moment. Like, they were having sort of a moment before, but now it has just kicked it into high gear. I think people are looking for things of quality like they haven't been before. Like, everything before was sort of like, it's like fast fashion, fast food, fast furniture. And now people are slowing down a little bit and wanting to really live with pieces that have history, that have soul, that have already been around for 100 years, that will be around for another 100 years. And I think it's really exciting. You kind of can tell that by the way that Facebook Marketplace is blowing up. Because when I couldn't go thrift store shopping, let me tell you, I was on the computer doing Facebook Marketplace. And so many people are, and it's become like real competitive, and there's all these algorithms to learn and all that. So it's been pretty interesting to watch. And I just think that vintage is really having a moment. And I think it is so exciting for a lot of reasons. But one of those reasons being just the sustainability of it. You know, that you don't have to be continuously consuming new clothes, new furniture, new this. Like, I was talking about IKEA. IKEA is great. Like, I no hate on IKEA, but I wouldn't say that you would buy that for an heirloom piece. But you can go to the thrift store, Facebook Marketplace, and find these beautiful, amazing pieces that you can pass down to your grandchildren for less than you're buying that, cheap plywood dresser at those big box stores. So I just think it's really exciting. It's so much better for the wallet. It's so much better for the environment. And it is dang fun to feel like you got a good deal and got to go on like a treasure hunt.
Well, and it's also, you're not, I have things and have bought things from IKEA, but a million other people have the exact same thing in their house, right?
That too. That's a huge thing too. Is like, it adds personality. And I can't tell you how many times I get, oh my gosh, where's that from? Or where's this from in my house? And I'm like, I'm sorry, it's vintage. I mean, it's just one of a kind, right? Like, and that's another really fun thing about vintage and shopping secondhand is, like, it really is an opportunity to, like, let your freak flag fly. You know what I mean? Like, whatever you're into, like, go with it. I also am really into, like, Jesus pictures and Virgin Mary vintage I don't know why. I'm not like a devout Catholic or anything like that. I would say I'm more spiritual than religious, but I'm so down with, like, Jesus and Mary. I just think they're beautiful, or the blue bonnet prints, but they have to be dirty. That's weird.
Yeah,
that's weird, but that's okay. That's what is so fun about this.
Yeah, the dirty paintings look like they've been, like, tea-stained fabrics.
Yes, exactly. I love it. In fact, I found a quilt at the thrift store the other day. and I went to clean it, and it had like that tea stained like coloring to it. And when I cleaned it, it took it all out and like made it fresh and new. And I was like bummed. I was
Yeah, there
what I
are.
loved about this was that tea stained old look to it. So it's pretty funny.
Yeah, sometimes we've had paintings cleaned over the years, and sometimes they turn out beautifully, and other times like, oh yeah, the character is all gone now with all the.
Exactly.
So what is your? I just thought of this question. I should have asked this before. What is your favorite thrifted piece?
Oh my god, that's like the worst question. It's so funny. I talk about this a lot. It's hard for me because every piece has a story. I'm one of those people that like I can't remember what I had for breakfast this morning or what I wore yesterday, but I could tell you pretty much everything in my house, where I bought it and what I paid for it. And each piece has a story, you know, and oh, I was in Round Top with my mom when I got this piece, or we had such a great time that trip, but I would have to say, the one thing I usually always say is, well, obviously the Ford sign was so great. Such a great. And then I have this this vintage, like mid-century modern stool that is crushed velvet on the top. It's just a little footstool. And I found it on the side of the road in LA, and it was $5 at like a yard sale. And it came with like a bigger kind of 70s style chair. And I didn't want the chair, I just wanted the footstool. And that little footstool, it's like the chartreuse color, has been with me for years. And it was $5. I've like replaced the legs. Like I just love it. I love it. And it just adds like a little pop of color into whatever room it's in. And it's just unique.
It's funny how those little things just take a part of our heart and live with us forever.
Weird.
And your kid 40 years from now will be like, Mom, what the hell?
Yeah, Mom's had this all her life.
Yeah. Well, Leah, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been a great conversation about all things thrifting and vintage. Appreciate you being on. If you're watching at home, Living with Leah on Instagram. She has a website, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. She is all over the place. Thank you so much for watching Behind the Gavel with Jason. If you have any questions for me or my company, info@kcauctioncompany.com is a great place to go. Ask questions. You can always call the number at 816-283-3633. And of course, our website is kcauctioncompany.com. So Leah, thank you again so much for joining us today. Look forward to seeing you and interacting with you on Instagram.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I can't wait to hear the big announcements. I'm excited about what you got coming up.
We'll see. Hopefully get to it by the end of the year. Just got to get some childcare.
Yeah, well, you got your mom now.
It's up to you.
Thanks a lot, Leah. Thank you all so much for watching. If you have any questions, post them below. We'll answer them as we can. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend.